Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Chris coming at you with another episode to the Beautiful Struggle podcast. And this is episode number 49. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, this is a personal development podcast and a business podcast. And really, my goal for this podcast is to empower the audience, empower you guys to live the life that you truly deserve. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, we drop a new episode every single Monday morning of the week. Start your week off right. If you want additional content, we have an Instagram account where we try to post daily and post as much as possible. Our Instagram account handle is at Beautiful Struggle Podcast. That's at Beautiful Struggle Podcast. So with all that out the way, today we have another guest on via Zoom. I'm super excited for this episode. Been trying to get this guy on here for a while now, but we finally made it happen. So just to give you a little background about this guest, he was the founder of HireMatch, which we'll get into what exactly that was. He's a stock investor. He's a tech entrepreneur. He's a finance and business coach. He played basketball in Puerto Rico, was super dope. And yeah, welcome my guy Armando. How you doing, bro?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Yep. Before we get into it, before we dive into, your story, your background, you growing up and whatnot, I definitely had a basketball related question. I was wondering, who did you resemble your game most after? So who did you look up to?
Uh,
Who was that person that you try to resemble like?
I didn't. I mean, I tried to resemble a lot of people, but people said I was more like Shane Battier
Okay.
kind of game. Like
Okay.
I had a high IQ game, but my athleticism was about average. So
Okay.
my game was mostly like a high IQ game. Just I wasn't like going out in the middle dunking on people and stuff like that. But I mean, I
But you
could
could
dunk.
shoot.
I could shoot, and I could.
Mm.
I could use my mind to figure out angles and things like that.
Mm.
So I kind of resembled that type of game. Uh,
Got you.
it
And
wasn't like
how long did you hoop for?
I played for a year and a half there.
Okay.
It wasn't a really long time, but
Right. So yeah, we can just jump into your background, how you grew up, where you grew up, and we can start with your journey of entrepreneurship.
yeah. So I mean, I grew up in Tennessee. Well, mostly more in Tennessee. I actually grew up in several places because my father and my stepfather were military, so we moved around a
Got you.
lot. We ended up in Tennessee when I was about 12 years old. So I say I consider Tennessee as the place I grew up because I was there in the seventh grade and I stayed there through college. So I mean, that's I was there more than anywhere else. My mom
Hmm.
is from there, so I kind of see that as my hometown. But so I grew up in Tennessee. I went to college at Austin State University, studied computer science. And that's where and that's where I kind of like I bit the entrepreneur bug bit me. Right as I was,
Mm.
the first thing I ever did. I actually go back farther than that. The first entrepreneurial thing I ever did was me and my brother. We ran a lawn mowing service. And I think I was like
Mm.
14. He was like 12 or 11. And when we had business cards and everything, we would go around and we would have service contracts. And it was the first thing I ever did. We had a logo, we had
Mm.
invoices.
Wow.
We did all that early on, and that's really what
Mm.
kind of like got me into all of this, right?
Hmm.
And later on in college, I actually ran a pretty good business in college. What I did is, I had an eBay store. I actually
Mm.
did pretty good, especially for a college student. I had an eBay store, and what I did was I refurbished old video game systems. So I would get
Oh
like an old
wow.
Nintendo, old Sega, or whatever. And I'd open it up and I'd clean it up really, really nice. I would, you know, or replace any logos on the outside because you could buy those decals. The Nintendo, the old 8-bit Nintendos had a problem to where I don't know how old you are, but if you maybe remember back, you put those cartridges in,
Hmm.
you have to blow them out. I don't know
You
if
got
you
to
remember.
blow on them. Yeah.
The reason why you have to blow on it is because there's a pin connector inside that connects the cartridge with the actual system inside. So you put it in there and it has to connect. Well, the reason why you have to blow it is because the connection gets weak in there. So any like
Mm.
saying anything gets in between those connections because there's a gap,
Hmm.
it causes it not to work. So you got to blow it out. It has to be 100% clean. But if if you open a Nintendo and you tighten those that connector down, it's a flush connection. So it no longer has to be 100% clean. So what I did is I would open them up. I would fix those connectors, put it back in, and now you got a perfect Nintendo. And I would charge 3 or 4 times as much as I
Wow,
was.
that's funny because back in the days, I thought we were just blown on it because it was dusty or something. We didn't know what was going on. We just, blow on it because everybody else was doing it.
Yeah, so
That's funny.
like I said, that connector over time it gets weak. So when you put the Nintendo in, it's a lot of like space in there. So if any sand, anything gets in between, it's not going to work. But if
Got you.
but if it's tight, when you push it in, it kind of cleans it as you push it in. So it's going to be 100% clean. So that was kind of my second entrepreneur thing I ever did. I made for a college student a lot of money with that for years. Then what happens with most things like that is that over time, if anytime you have something new like that, it's only a matter of time before it gets saturated.
Everybody else starts doing it.
Everybody else starts doing it. Right? You have to.
Right.
That's really what taught me about that concept is that when something's new out, it's going to get saturated fast. If the barrier to entry is low, there's a lot of money to be made. The margins are high. It's going to be saturated fast. And and the law of diminishing returns comes into place. That's the first thing they ever taught me that. And as I moved on, I got out of college. I took a job at a place called EdgeNet. It was a artificial, more like a expert system company. It's a type of artificial intelligence. I worked there for a couple of years. I got laid off there because that was right before the 2008 housing crash. And that software we made at that company was for the housing market. We made a software for Home Depot and Lowe's. So I got laid off there, and I took that opportunity to build another product, and it was called Key Prowler. That was my first software project I ever built. It was like 2007, 2008. And I built that, and what it was a software that you can install on your computer, and you could monitor your kids. Like back then, MySpace was big, and a lot of parents were afraid of MySpace. I saw an opportunity. I said, you know what, we can make software that where parents could monitor their children to make sure they're not getting into all, marijuana, drugs, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that actually sold pretty well. And that taught me more lessons. It taught me about creating value. It taught me about different pricing models. It taught that, every experience I had taught me something, right? And that experience taught me about pricing models, right? Is that people want to have a choice. So so a lot of times if you offer a customer a choice in products, some customers, a certain percentage will always pick the premium product. A certain percentage will pick the middle grade product. A certain percentage is going to pick the cheapest. Don't matter what it is, right? That was the same, like that Key product was the application when you download. You download on your computer, you install it, right? It was the same exe file, the same file that you downloaded. But I created 3 different product points. One was premium, in which you got a copy in the mail. One was middle grade, which you got extra support, 24-hour support. The base model, you didn't get any support. So that same product, the same exe, I was able to create 3 different price points because I learned about that during that product. So I learned more about customer behavior, how people think. And that was another lesson, right? So I moved on. And after that, I was a teacher for a while. I was a college instructor. I taught software engineering, software development. And now I moved to Florida to go to grad school at USF, studied computer science, more computer science. And so after I finished grad school, I had a company called APAN Software. And we made custom software. The company grew pretty fast early. So we went from 1 employee, me, to 14 within like a year or two. But most of our business, and that's another lesson, right? Most of our business came from online. So we did. I don't know if you know about SEO. You know about SEO. You're a marketer.
Yeah.
So all of our leads came in from SEO. So I actually made a lot of money because we were first for almost every single top. You looked up anything web design, web development, software engineering, software development in Tampa or anywhere around here, we come up first. So that's where all our leads came from. And we actually were making a lot of money during that time. So one day Google changed its algorithm. And that was over. The leads went from like 20 a day to 0.
The algorithm always changes everything.
I know, man. Like it was really easy back then, and I could never get it back, man. Like I thought I was pretty good at SEO back then.
What year was that?
This was 2013. I think it was the Penguin. It was called Penguin, I think.
Okay.
I think so. And And that
That's
update, man,
interesting.
I can never get them back on top since. That was the update where they started actually, like when you type, it fills in, it starts, it predicts what you're going to
Mm-hmm.
type. So that didn't exist before that. So people had to type the whole thing in. So that, along with the
Mm.
update, killed everything, right? So I had to lay off a lot of employees. I started going negative. I wasn't making. I took out a bunch of loans to try to cover the difference. I kept struggling, trying to get back, never could. And I ended up going 150,000 in debt, 150,000 dollars in debt. And most of it was credit card debt, 20% interest. So after that was over, one day I decided to quit, man. Actually, I should have quit earlier, but one day I decided, man, I'm going to quit, man. I gotta, I have a family. I gotta watch out. I gotta make sure everything's okay with them. So
Before you, not to cut you off, before you continue the story, if we can talk about quitting real quick, because a lot of people have the mentality of, I'm never gonna quit, I can't quit, I can't give up. But in business, a lot of time, quitting and stopping what you're doing can be the best solution for the current problem. So you want
that's
to talk about that real quick? The mentality that you had, that you say, you know what, I'm just gonna stop this and maybe pivot and go somewhere else.
And that goes back to the point I always talk about. It's called exit strategies, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
to have when you go into a company as two, when you start a company, it's one point, right? It's only one
Mm-hmm.
decision. You start it and that's it. Or you start anything, an investment, business, anything. You start something with your friends, anything you put your money or effort into, it's one decision. You decide to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now there's like 4 decisions that can happen, right? So there's 2 things that can happen from that initial decision. It can go like you thought, or it can go against you. It can go bad. So when that happens, you have to know when you start it, you already got to have it in plan. Like, so look, if this business doesn't do X, Y, Z, I got to get out. If I start losing, if I got $20,000 in the bank, once I use that, I'm going to quit. Or once it does well, I'm going to do this, and this. So there's 4 decisions there. You have to decide what you're going to do. If it goes bad, goes good, how much loss you're going to take, how much loss you're going to accept. If it goes good, what are you going to do to continue that the good side, right? So that's what you have to do. You have to figure that out initially. When you start a business, start an investment, anything, you buy a stock, whatever, you already got to know what you're going to do when that happens. That's what a lot of people fail at, and that's what happened with me, right? And when I started that company, I didn't have an exit plan. I just was going to start. I had no idea what was going to happen. I was just running a business, right? So it caused me to go deeper and deeper into debt, which I should have quit it. To be honest, I should have quit it. As soon as that algorithm hit, I should have gave it 6 months and I should have quit. I actually went 3 or 4 years after that.
Wow.
I never could get it. I never could get the leads back.
So you decided to shut it down. You decided to quit because you have a family. What happened after that?
So after that, man, I had $150,000 worth of debt, and I had to do something, man. So I took a job as a software engineer for a while. I took a second job at night as a teacher. So for like 2 years, I just worked 80 hours a week. So I paid every little dollar I had. I put it on the debt till it was finally gone for 2 years.
Wow.
I worked 2 jobs, 2 full-time jobs almost for 2 years. Any little money, I didn't spend anything. I cut down my expenses to nothing. I didn't go out, didn't eat nothing until I paid it off. And then so once I paid it off, and that was a big effort, man. I mean, it was almost 80%, 90% of my money went to that debt.
Wow.
Almost every dollar I had, it was a year that, that was my daughter was born. So I don't even remember her first year or so, because I was doing it. That's all I did every day, is I just
working
getting that debt off. I had like little side jobs I was doing, plus those 2 full-time jobs. But initially, I finally got it off completely. So after that was finished, I said, look, I'm going to start another company, right? Like I said, I've been in Bitcoin at that point, I've been in cryptocurrency since, this was around 2016. So at that point, I've been in cryptocurrency for a while.
So when you mean you were in cryptocurrency, what do you mean specifically by that?
So the APAN software company, that was the first company in the U.S. to accept cryptocurrency as a payment. And it's if you look up the press release, it's out there for like 2012. We were the first company in the continental U.S. to accept cryptocurrency, right? And we had a few projects that we actually accepted cryptocurrency on. So we were one of the first companies to do that. So I've been going to conferences since 2012. I've been, I've had Bitcoin since 2012. But a lot of people say, why, what happened to all of them? Well, back then, we didn't see it as what it is now. It's more of an investment. Back then, it was a currency. We spent them all. That's what everybody did back then. Like, I would buy Bitcoin. I would go down to these restaurants, meet with a bunch of other cryptocurrency enthusiasts, And we would talk all day, and we paid a guy. It was a Philippine restaurant or something, a Vietnamese, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd all go there. We'd all talk about crypto. We paid a guy in crypto. So we did all these transactions in Bitcoin. You know, we didn't save it. People didn't start seeing it as an investment at 16. Not really. Some people did, but the vast majority of people didn't. So so at that time it was, so at that time I started my final company, the same company I got now, called Quant Index. And that company, we were gonna I had a business partner this time. And that's another lesson. It's a lot easier with a business partner. all the other things I did before was by myself.
By yourself.
With a business partner he's not technical, but he has a strong business mind. So he's the one that taught me a lot of stuff I know now. He's the one that handled a lot of that stuff. He's a little older. He knows what he's doing, so that actually helped me to, be freer in my tech side, freer in my thinking, and freer to create new ideas, because he handles all the business stuff, the lawyers had talked to the lawyers, he's good at that, right? So that's another thing, is that I would always suggest to somebody to have a business partner if they can, because that's not like you. A lot of people want to get a business partner that's like them. No, you have to have somebody opposite of you, that doesn't have skills that you have. So we started a company called Quant Index, and that company is a research firm for emerging technologies, cryptocurrency, blockchain, artificial intelligence. So we were going to research and create new technologies on emerging technologies. So it was an opportunity came to us in around late 16 about HireMatch. HireMatch is a decentralized recruitment platform. So we started building that, and that's one of our projects. We have several projects that we work on right now. That's just one, right? And another one we had was ICO Ranker. ICO Ranker was another project that we created during that time. And what that did, it was an artificial intelligence system. And what they did is that, I don't know how much you know about crypto, but back in 16, 17, there was it was a concept called ICOs coming out. People would come up with cryptocurrency projects, and they would ask for investment from the crypto community to invest in these different projects. Well, we created a platform that was able to predict which project would fail and which projects would do well and which would, and we would associate a number with each one of these projects. At one point, we had 1 million visitors a month on this site. In 16 to 17. So it actually did pretty well. We had ads on the site, and then we were approached in late 2017. It was a publicly traded company called Code-Based Ventures in Canada. They approached us to purchase it from us, cash and stock deal. We ended up selling it around March of 2018. So we sold that for a little under $2 million, and that was our first sale of one of our projects, So that was in 2018. So since then, we've been working on emerging technology. We're still working on HireMatch. We got a couple other projects out there, and that's what I'm working on right now. And that brings us to the current day.
So when you're going into creating these businesses, in your exit strategy, is it in there that you can possibly sell this thing, or is it a goal of you guys to sell whatever you guys create?
Not necessarily, but that one, we started that with the intent to sell it. And the reason is because, and I'm telling you, I'm going to connect it back to another story. Back when I remember I told you the story when I did those Nintendos. Yeah. And I told you that this market got saturated. I predicted that was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. So we built it with the intent to sell it. We built it, we're going to sell this company. We're going to, we're going to build it with an intent. So when you start with that intent, you have to build a business differently. You have to build it based on processes. Because when you hand it off to somebody else, you can't, it has to be right. So you can just press a button. Right? So that's what we built it with that intent. We was a clean company. Well, we had out to do different things. So we handed this over to them. It was an hour set. On the phone, we told them we're going to move it over to you. And it's all you got to do here. And that was it, right? It wasn't messy because we built it with that intent. It was easy for them to take over, right? That's the whole way we built that. But like I said, that was the intent of that, right? Is that we were going to either somebody was going to either sell it or somebody was going to buy, equity in it, one or the other. And they decided that we would have accepted, half or whatever, but they wanted the whole thing, so we just sold it to them.
Wow. So for the people that maybe don't know too much about cryptocurrency, can you break down HireMatch in plain English for the people out there?
Yeah, so HireMatch is a decentralized recruitment platform. So uh, the normal job market, the way it works right now, if you guys don't know, for professional jobs, a lot of times they go through recruitment agencies. A lot of times for a lot of jobs, really, it's not just professionals, but a lot of jobs go through recruitment agencies. So normally a recruiter calls you. So a recruiter gets a specific job, like a recruitment firm will get a job, let's say for an accountant, right? So then they go around and they go around and have to find this accountant. So they message people, email their list or whatever. So it's kind of a limited system, right? So they can only, message people they know. So it's a limited network. So what HireMatch is going to do is that instead of posting a job to a recruitment agency, post it to a network. So that network gets the job, and people are incentivized to find applicants for this job. You don't have to be a recruiter, right? So let's say, for example, if you're a part of the HireMatch network, Chris, and you say, hey man, I want to make some extra money for my connection. So you sign up, and every time, and you put in all the people the network, the community you're in, marketing, right? So when somebody does, when a job comes through for marketing, you get an alert, right? And you say, hey, I know a bunch of people that can fill this. So you put a bunch of people into throwing their name into the hat for that job, right? So you get paid just for recommending people. Right now in the market, you only get paid if that person gets hired. Right. So you would get paid for just recommending people, because when you recommend somebody, that adds to the bucket of applicants in which the employer can pick from. So they get a wider net, they get a wider group of candidates, and it actually aids them in picking the best candidate. So you would receive money just for sending your friends over. Or if you could be a recruiter, right? You can just do this full time, or you can create an application, right? So it works three ways. You can be a person, just a normal person. You can be a recruiter, or you can create an application. Let's say you had a website. You say, hey, I want to create a website, and all I'm going to do is look for marketing professionals, right? You got a lot of people on your mailing list or whatever. You create a website, you integrate a HireMatch API into your website, and now anytime somebody comes to your website and applies, you get money for that also. So anyway, it could be through a website, it could be through some kind of technology, it could be through a mobile app, it could be through word of mouth, it could be through a recruiter. It doesn't matter. Everybody receives direct money for people they recommend. And if that person goes on to be hired, you get almost 25% of what we call a bounty. Some of these bounties are as large as $10,000, $20,000. So if somebody that does get hired, you can receive $3,000 or $4,000 through that system. And you also get the initial money just for recommending somebody.
Got you. Wow. Something that I'm interested in knowing your perspective on is transitioning from being an athlete playing basketball into business. A lot of athletes, we have this dream of just like playing sports forever. We don't really have an exit strategy like you spoke about. Ball is life. So talk about the transition from being an athlete to a business. Yeah, was it difficult for you? Was it?
It wasn't difficult, because remember, two of my businesses were before that. The Nintendo refurbishing and the lawnmower services before I even played basketball. So even when I was in Puerto Rico, I was like, in my off time, I was still coming up with business ideas. I was still looking up stuff, and so it was always part of me. So it wasn't really a transition. It was just always part. I don't remember a time since I was like 16 that I constantly wasn't thinking about business. It wasn't really a transition there.
Got you. That makes sense. I mean, I just asked because, a lot of athletes, the first thing on their mind is athletics, and, they don't really have a backup plan a lot of the time.
Yeah, a lot of them don't.
Yeah. So to present day, it seems like now you're into a lot of educating people. You got your own page that you educate people on. You got pages like Puerto Rico Millionaires. You got Millionaire Builders, where you go on there and you talk about stocks, finances, and whatnot. Talk about the importance of continue education and maybe why you got into this space that you're in now.
Well, like you notice that really it all came from about a year ago. I was just posting, I've had my page for about Instagram page for about 2 years, right? And like before, I was just posting like, quotes and success quotes, stuff like that. And then I started posting, I got on live and I started posting stuff about business, and people started, it seemed like people liked it. So I continued with that, right? Now, then I started posting my stock picks. People like that. And I started doing it more and more. But the point of it is just to show people how it's not, because a lot of people have mental blocks when it comes to business, investing, anything like that. They feel like they can't do it, or these words are too much. And I try to break it down to like basic language, because this stuff is easier than people think. It's not like you don't have to be in a business suit and, speaking all these big words to be able to do this, right? Because it's easier than most people think. Like stock options, for example. People think it sounds hard, but it's actually very, very easy. We do this stuff all the time. Anytime you put a down payment down for something, that's an option. Anytime you put something on layaway, that's an option. It's the same. It's very, very simple. But people don't see it as like that. They see it as like it's hard, it's complicated. I'm never going to understand it. I want people to get into this stuff, but especially minorities, because this is the way you build wealth, through tech and finance. And I try to make these things as easy as possible. I also have classes on software development. So we do those like once a month. I walk 100, 200 people through a program, how to build a Java program every month. It's 100% free. But I just want people to realize that these two vehicles, I should say, technology and finance, are the easiest ways to wealth. And we can look at the Forbes top 10 people. 7 of them are in finance and tech. 7 out of the 10. You look like Elon Musk. You look at Warren Buffett, Bill Gates. You look at all these people, Mark Zuckerberg. They built their wealth through finance and tech, because those two vehicles are the only two vehicles you can use that magnify your efforts that much. You're talking about 100, 200, 10,000 times your effort. You can do one thing and you can multiply 10 times. You can't do that if let's say you start a taxi firm, right? Well, let's say you start a taxi firm that was before Uber, but I say Uber didn't exist. You start a taxi company,
right?
And you bought one taxi, right? So now let's say your taxi company was very, very popular. Well, now every time, in order to expand, you got to buy another taxi. You got to get new employees. You have to acquire stuff. You have to acquire employees to expand, right? So your effort is not being expanded because you have to expand the infrastructure. But in technology, you just got to, if you make one program, let's say you spent the summer, you built a program, right? That's all you have to do. It can sell once or it can sell 1,000,000 times. It's to say the effort is the same. In finance, it's the same thing, right? We can make a decision on a stock or make a decision on an investment one time. It's multiplied 1,000 times sometimes. So those two industries, or those two vehicles, I should say, are the only two on earth where they can be multiplied like that. No other industries like that. Like if I was a baker, right? Every cake, I have to make a cake every time I sell it. So that's the effort is 1-to-1, right? Every time I have to put a certain amount of labor in for one cake. So it's not, so you don't have that type of magnification of labor as you do in tech and finance. That's why I'm so passionate about it.
How long have you been trading stocks for?
It's been a while, 15 years probably.
Wow.
Since I was like 23.
Got you. Talking about stocks and whatnot, you recently posted an Instagram live, and the name of the live was chess, not checkered, I believe. So talk about the concept of playing chess and not checkered, and really being prepared. In that live, you spoke about a market crash coming. So yeah, you can go ahead and speak about that. How can people prepare for a market crash? How can people get in the mindset of playing chess and not checkered, and really thinking 10 steps ahead, not just one step ahead?
Now, the thing about, so the difference between chess and checkers, we discussed that. So chess is a game in which each piece has a unique abilities, unique movements, right? So checkers, every piece has the same movements. So the strategy is not as advanced as it is in chess, right? So in order to win at chess with a good player, you have to think 5, 10, 15 moves ahead. With checkers, it's not so much. It's almost one move at a time. You do think 2 or 3 moves ahead, but because those pieces are all equal, the strategy is not as advanced. But in chess, in order to win, you have to place your pieces on the board correctly. So you have to be able to think 5, 10, 15 moves ahead. So when an opportunity does strike, when the opportunity comes, you can strike, right? That's the difference here, is that when the market does crash, we want to have our pieces in place. You have to already have them in place. You can't, if you don't predict what's going to happen like you do in chess, you're not going to have your pieces in place. You have to be able to predict what's coming. You have to be able to see what's coming, put your pieces in place. Then once it happens, you strike. And that's the difference. That's why I always say chess, not checkers, is because you have to be able to predict these things that are going to happen. You have to have your pieces in place. And what I mean by pieces is education, finances, everything in place. So when it does happen, you're ready.
Mm-hmm. Got you. Now, what can people do? Let's just say a crash. We're in the middle of a crash right now. What can people do in the middle of a crash? A lot of people, unfortunately, are not going to prepare for that. Are not going to put the right pieces in play. But what can people do during a crash?
So there's a few things, right? You can have money set aside for when the stocks do drop. You can take advantage. You could put stop losses on your current holdings just in case it does fall. You won't lose so much money. And the third thing you can do is just get educated, right? Make sure when it does happen, you'll see it happen. And a lot of times, and that's why we train in basketball, right? That's the reason why we go to practice. The reason why we practice so much is that you build up models in your head of different situations. That's what practice is for. So when these things unfold in a game, you're not surprised by them. You've seen it 10 times before. You studied it. You've looked at the plays. You've looked at the game tapes. It's not now all of a sudden you're not shocked by it. It's frozen, right? You're just going to go with the flow. And it's the same thing in the stock market. Is that when these things start unfolding in front of us, you'll be like, that's exactly what I studied. And this is not. It's going to happen. This is what's going to happen because this is what I looked at. This is what Armando told me about. This is what the book I read told me about. This is what I read about 6 months ago. It's not. You're not going to be scared. You're not going to be panicked. You're going to just make the right moves. Like just same thing in basketball is that when things do happen, you make the right moves. You don't because you practice for it so much that by the time that the events do unfold, you've seen it 10 times before. It's not scary anymore.
Right. That makes sense. What was it, like 2 weeks ago when we hopped on our phone call and we were talking a little bit, you brought up as minorities in our community, in your community, and especially in Puerto Rico, it's almost looked down upon to be wealthy and to make money. You want to talk a little bit about that, maybe why that is and what you're really doing to push that stigma, I guess, to change that stigma?
So I think so let's talk about Puerto Rico because I've noticed this a lot more in Puerto Rico, especially in the countryside as opposed to here, right? And I think it has to do it's two things, right? It's a Catholic upbringing. There's a lot of Catholic guilt. I think that's one. The second reason I think is that it was a coping mechanism. Most of the countryside in Puerto Rico is very, very poor. It was traditionally poor in the past and even up until now, right? So in order to cope with that, being in poverty, you have to come up with some kind of mindset to understand that. So the way you say it is you're like, look, man, I'd rather be humble than poor. I'd rather be, those rich people, man, they're immoral and all this stuff. I'd rather be like I am now. But that's a coping mechanism, which is okay. But that's a coping mechanism to get you through that poverty. So when somebody out of that community does become wealthy, they feel a lot of guilt. They feel like, I just feel guilty for having this money. And then the people that are still within that poverty do look down on it because of the Catholicism, because of all these, the infrastructure that was built to help them cope through the poverty. So I think that's a big place. I think it's the coping mechanism and also the Catholic background that causes that.
Got you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what you're doing. An Afro-Latino in this space that's speaking out and educating people. You don't see that a whole lot. And I always say when people are successful and they're in a place that you want to be in and they look like you, it just makes it so much easier to reach your goals. And it just makes you so much more relatable.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we could just start to wrap this thing up, man. I had one more question for you, and then I had a couple questions from Instagram that people wanted to ask. I wanted to know, how did you know that you were living in your purpose? Are you living in your purpose now, or is that something that's always evolving? When did you feel that moment?
I don't know. I think I think it's evolving, I would say. I don't like my purpose. Gotcha. I think this is part of my purpose. I'm pretty sure this is it, teaching people. Because I've always liked teaching a lot. I've always loved teaching. I think that's part of my purpose. But I don't know how far that extends out. So I like it's always evolving to me. I think I'm kind of I'm figuring it out as I go along in
Yeah.
life. Right?
No, no, that's really good. I've read this book called The Way of the Superior Man. I always bring it up on the podcast. Phenomenal book to read. I highly recommend it. In the book, the gentleman speaks about finding your purpose, and finding your purpose is like peeling back the layers of an onion. So maybe the first layer was was lawn mowing. The second layer was the Nintendo business. The third layer it could have been basketball. So you're just peeling it until you get that to the core of it, and maybe teaching and education is the core of it. You know?
Could be. It's a good way to
Yeah,
say it.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. So just to jump into a couple questions that people had from Instagram, one of the most common questions that people were asking about was stocks, obviously, and getting into stocks. A lot of people don't know where the heck to start. They don't know what to invest in. I guess I can kind of answer some of those questions for you, maybe, and you can add on to it. But when it comes to when people are asking about where do I educate myself about stocks, I would assume that the first place you can go is Google. Use your resources such as Google. Go to YouTube. A lot of the basic questions that we ask, they can easily be answered online easily. What would you recommend for the people out there that are looking to start or don't know where to start?
Yeah, it'd be the same thing. I mean, I think we live in an age right now where it's easy to access information. If you go back 20, 30 years ago, it was impossible. You'd have to go to the library all weekend to get
Right.
1/10 of the things we can get in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So you live in a time where it's very, very easy to access information. So we need to take advantage of that. YouTube, you got, that Investopedia is a good one. That's a website in which it has all these things about investment. It goes past just stocks. It's every type. It's real estate investment trust, real estate, gold, metals, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good site. You got podcasts like this one. People just want to, and that's another thing is that people always say they don't have time and this and that, but everybody drives every day. Everybody goes to work. Everybody drives to the grocery store. It's a time when you can have these podcasts like this. You can have audio books. I mean, that's a time you can use this time instead of listening to music or the radio to learn things. That's an hour a day. That's a lot of people drive an hour a day, 45, 50 minutes a day. That's an entire class session in college, So that means you can go to class every single day. And you could gain a lot of knowledge just in your rides around town, going to the store, going over to the barber shop, going to work. That's an hour a day. You almost learn a new subject every day if you really, really put your mind to it.
Right.
A lot of people lose that time.
That's the fact. I mean, I know for myself, something that I've been practicing every day is I tell myself I need to get 1% better every single day. And I need to end the day with learning something. Something. It could be literally anything. Because I believe, and I'm sure you can agree as well, the day that you stop learning is the day that you die.
Exactly. I think that's true.
Yeah, yeah. So another question that somebody else had is, what is the biggest mistake rookie investors make?
All right, well, jumping into options, which a lot of people have done, man, is that they have no idea what they're doing and trying to buy advanced investments like an option. An option is a little bit more advanced, a little harder. Another thing is that the number one thing, and I'll tell you, we talked about this before, and I'm gonna harp on it again, is the exit strategies. And if you remember, I don't know if you remember the Hertz thing that happened about 4 weeks ago. I think it was 4 weeks ago. Well, Hertz dropped down, the dollar went up to 7, went all the way back down. I don't know if you remember that. Hertz went bankrupt. I'll tell you this scenario because a lot of people lost a lot of money that shouldn't have lost money. Hertz went bankrupt, right? So they went from a $30 stock down to $1. Well, they said that they were going to restructure their debt. They were going to do certain things. They were going to come out of bankruptcy stronger. So their stock rebounded to $7. So when it was on its way up from $1, $2, $3, a lot of people bought in at $2, $3. So within a week, it was at 7. So a lot of people made 300% returns right there. So then the stock started going down, right? So those same people didn't sell because a beginner in their mind, you got to remember, there's two emotions that control you. And everybody goes through these emotions, no matter how professional you are, no matter how beginner you are, everybody has these same two. It's greed and fear. Those two emotions, you have to separate your trading from those emotions because those emotions will cost you money every time. So in that situation, It went to $7. A lot of people bought at $2. Went to 7, came all the way back down and dropped to 6, dropped to 5, dropped to 4. They didn't want to sell because now people are getting greedy. They wanted to go back to the 7 where they saw it at the peak. They feel like they're losing money because their account's going down. So then it drops below where they bought it from. Now they're losing money for real. Then they panic and sell it. So in a situation like that, you end up losing money that you shouldn't have lost. You were up 300%. You end up losing your initial investment because you didn't have an exit strategy. We're going back to that. Exit strategies are very, very important. You have to know how much loss you're going to take. You have to know how much profit you're going to take. You got to understand that when you buy the stock. That's what beginners never understand. The most dangerous thing you could do is have your finger hovering over the button, waiting, not knowing when to sell. Now your emotions take over. You don't know when to sell. You're watching. First of all, it's taking a lot of time because you got to watch the screen all day. So if let's say you make $100, it took you all day. Well, now you only made what $8, $9 an hour, $12 an hour. Right. That's what you really made. You made $100 on the stock, but it took you all day watching the stock. You might as well went to work. So you have to come up with a way. You have to use order types. You have to be able to plan this stuff out in the future with your exit strategy. You have to know how you're going to get out. If it goes up 20%, I'm going to sell. If it goes down 20%, I'm going to sell. You don't have to use those numbers, but you have to have something in place.
Got you. Someone asked about paying taxes on stocks, specifically on gains.
So on stock gains, it's 2 ways it can be taxed: regular income or capital gains. Capital gains is when you hold the stocks for over a year. So it's the highest you pay is 20%. And if you hold it for less than a year, it gets added to your income, and it's whatever your income rate is. So the highest that can be is 35%. So it's higher if you do short-term trades. Regardless, it's going to be higher if you hold it for under a year as opposed to holding it for over a year.
Makes sense. One other question: do you think having a financial advisor is important?
I think so. Because remember, like, people come to me and ask me about specific stocks. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what stocks to buy. That's illegal. I can put what stocks I'm buying on my Instagram. I can talk about stocks in general, but I can't.
No, I didn't know that.
No, you can't. It's illegal to do that. You can't sit down. Like, I can't sit down with you and then manage your portfolio because I don't have a license. Now, I can tell you, I can say, look, I'm buying Amazon stocks. Amazon stock is great, and you buy it. But once I sit down with you and you give me money to manage your portfolio, I'm committing a crime. It's illegal to do that. Only financial advisors can do that, right? And they have to do it under a certain structure. They can only recommend you things that benefit you and not them, right? They have a very, very strict structure in which they can help you with your portfolio. It's a very, very regulated industry. And a lot of financial advisors, to be honest, a lot of them just stick to insurance. So they're going to they mostly tell you about how to insure yourself, how to reduce risk. And they also manage your portfolio too, but it's hard to find one really that really teaches you more about finance as opposed to insurance. But like I said, it's a good tool to have. It's not, I use a financial advisor, but it's mostly for retirement and long-term planning.
Got you.
My stock trades and stuff, I don't even talk to him. I do my own portfolio.
You do your own thing, yeah.
But for the long-term stuff, the retirement, the life insurance, different, insuring yourself, that's what I talk to him about. The budgeting, he helps me with my budget. But other than that, like the stocks, I do my own stocks. I buy my own portfolio.
So when people are looking to jump into buying stocks and they have no idea what stock to buy, obviously they can do some type of research. But I've heard people say, if you have no idea what stocks to buy, invest in something that you like. So such as Nike, invest into like Nike or Adidas or something like that. Would you agree with that? Would you recommend that?
Yeah, because if you like something, you understand the business a little more, right? I would think that would make more sense. Let's say, for example, you're a shoe person. You know about shoes. So you could have like inside, not like information on that. Like Nike's gonna come out with this amazing shoe and it's gonna do this, and this. And you can buy Nike stock based on the information because you know more about it. And I'll give you a good example. I know a lot about technology. So that's, and about 4 months ago, I told people exactly what we were talking on here. I told people to invest in Zoom. I said, look, man, I didn't tell people, but I said, I'm invested in Zoom. And a lot of people said I was crazy because at the time, Zoom was having problems. People were hacking into Zoom. You remember
People were hacking. Yep.
People were like, man, you're crazy. This guy said, look, man, I know technology because I love technology. I thought they're going to fix that problem. I promise you. I don't care what's happening. They're not going to let their whole company fall apart by a few hackers. They're going to fix this problem. People thought I was crazy. The stock's going down. They got all these legal problems. It was news coming out that the Fed was going to stop using them, the federal government and stuff. And I said, look, man, that's all noise. You got to push it to the side, and you got to look at what the signal. Right now, everybody thought I was crazy, but now the stock's almost like 120% up since then.
Wow.
And that's because I was able to, because of what my knowledge and my love of what I do, I was able to pick that stock and everybody else couldn't see it. So let's say you were a shoe buff, right? You could see stuff that people couldn't see in the shoe market. You can look, this shoe's going to come out, it's going to be better than everybody else is going to push the stock up. So that would make sense to invest in things you like and you love, because you would have information on that industry that the average person may not even if they had it, they wouldn't understand it or be able to analyze it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you kind of touched on something that you spoke about on your Instagram. People are being really emotional with the news that's coming out, with different companies saying different things. I don't want to get into details, but people are being emotional about it. And we really have to take the emotion away from it and look at the facts, look at what's really going on, and really come to our own conclusion, especially with like companies like Zoom and, Goya. People got to really take the emotional aspect out of it again and look at the facts and look at what's really going on.
And that's what happens. And the news is part of this too, because you got to remember, and I tell people all the time, I say the news is a money-making venture. That's all it is. They're not doing this to help you. They're not doing this to give you information. That's their whole purpose is to make money, right? That's what they're there for. They sell ads. So the more people watch the news, the more ads they can sell. That's what their whole business is. They're a business. That's what they are. So when they tell you something, they're telling you to get your attention. So they use these emotional drivers to get your attention, right? A Goya is doing this, or Wayfair is doing that, or what else is done, or Zoom's doing getting hacked, or whatever. So it makes people panic because it's all emotional.
Twitter.
And they watch the news. Twitter, all that stuff is like Twitter. That was a pretty big hack though, but it was a pretty big hack. But all this stuff is to make you watch the news. And if you watch over the years, they've even changed the way that they present the news. They use the way that they write the headlines and stuff is to get you to click on the article. Clickbait.
Yeah.
It's changed over the last 10 years or so. Is that people are so emotionally driven now that they try to drive your emotions to drive the news. Every day, if you watch the news, it's the worst day ever. Every single day. Oh man. He's gonna it actually could drive somebody crazy.
Absolutely. That's why I don't even put the news on. I get that stuff away from me. I get my own news. Yeah. But how do you feel about, just a couple other questions, how do you feel about Robinhood? I know investing long term, Robinhood might be a good platform to use, might be a good platform to invest in. Obviously, it wouldn't be the best platform if you want to do some type of day trading, but what do you think about that?
Robinhood's pretty good. Robinhood's easy to use, but there's a lot of allegations now saying Robinhood is like they're going to get some lawsuits here pretty soon, I think. What happens is that they've kind of gamified stocks trading, right? They made it almost a game. The way that the interface is made to be easy and simple, but a lot of people are losing money on Robinhood. And it's because they quite don't understand what they're doing, because Robinhood's made it so simplified that people don't realize what they're doing. So I think Robinhood's going to have some lawsuits behind this pretty soon. I think they're going to have some class actions and everything like that. And, Robinhood actually had to put up bulletproof glass at their office because people were showing up, with all this stuff trying to kill their employees and stuff.
So what platforms do you recommend people to use to invest in stocks?
I always say I have multiple platforms. I got E-Trade, I got a Stash, I got Robinhood. The reason why I say this is because sometimes the market, the market's going up, or the best opportunities in the market is when it's increasing fast or when it's decreasing fast. Some of these platforms go offline. Robinhood's done it twice over the last year when the market was high. So if you only have one, you don't have any access to the market. You can't buy stocks when they're at their lowest. You can't do anything. You're just sitting on the sidelines. And what happens is they were down for an entire day during one of the best days to trade in the market during the COVID crisis. For the best days for put options, they were offline the whole day. So the next day, they get online and give everybody a $50 credit and say, sorry. And that's it. Even if you couldn't
Wow.
sell that day, even if you lost thousands of dollars in profit or whatever, they just tell you we're sorry. That's it.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, so we can start wrapping this thing up. One thing that I asked my guests to give to the audience before we end it, and we can end it on this note, is just to give one last piece of advice to the audience. It can be business related, it can be life, stocks, anything related. But what's one last piece of advice that you would recommend to the people, and we can end it on that?
I would just say if you follow what you love in life, a lot of times the money will come quickly after, right? If you follow what you love, you remove emotion from your decisions, and you think with logic. So you follow your heart when it's what you want to do. But once you get into it, you have to be able to remove that emotion, right? When you make decisions on the company, right? I love software engineering, so I got into that. But when I was in the company, we talked about APAM before, is that I should have used logic to make those decisions. I wouldn't have went into $150,000 worth of debt. So that's what I was always tell people: go into what you love, but make decisions based on logic.
Boom. Love it. Love it. Is there any social media handles that you want the people to follow you at? I'll go ahead and put everything in the description as well. Anything that you want to promote. I know you have a lot of different classes with a lot of great educational sources. You want to go ahead and plug anything?
Yeah, so just on Twitter, Facebook, and everywhere, my handle is Tall Guy Tycoon, TallGuyTycoon.
Mm-hmm. Got you. Yeah, I'll definitely link all that below. And again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on here and sharing some words of wisdom. It's your boy Chris, and I'll catch y'all next week.